Have you ever felt like all that English you learned from textbooks just disappears the second you're in a real conversation? If that sounds familiar, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to unlock the phrases and the techniques that native speakers actually use so you can totally change the way you speak.
Right? You've memorized the vocabulary, you know the grammar rules, but then someone asks you something simple and your mind just goes completely blank. It's an incredibly common and, let's be honest, super frustrating experience. But the good news is, it's totally fixable. And today, we're going to show you exactly how. And look, you are absolutely not alone in this. The Mode of English podcast really hits the nail on the head here. This feeling is universal, and it points to a huge distinction. Just knowing English words isn't the same thing as speaking English. They are two completely different skills. Okay, so here's our game plan to get you from feeling stuck to speaking with real confidence. We'll start with why that textbook-to-talk barrier exists. Then we'll reveal the big secret, speaking in chunks. After that, we'll give you a practical toolkit, touch on some key US versus UK differences, cover the master skill of listening, and then wrap it all up with a simple challenge you can start today. So this is what we call the textbook-to-talk barrier. It's that little moment of panic, when you're trying to translate everything in your head, word by word, but the conversation is just speeding ahead without you. It's what makes so many of us freeze up, because real-life conversations are fast, they're messy, and they definitely don't wait for us to perfectly assemble our sentences. So what's the secret to breaking through that barrier? Well, it all comes down to a technique called chunking. See, native speakers don't build their sentences one agonizing word at a time. Nope, they use these ready-made phrases, or chunks, that just flow out effortlessly. And getting good at this, it's probably the single biggest key to unlocking your fluency. Okay, so let's be super clear about what this means. Chunking is all about shifting your focus. You stop trying to memorize individual words, and you start learning the whole block of words that native speakers use as one single unit. This isn't just some new trick. It's a fundamental change in how you learn to speak, because it takes a huge load off your brain. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you're mentally juggling 5 separate puzzle pieces, trying to fit them all together. It's slow, it's stressful, but on the right, you just grab one complete piece. How's it going? And boom, you're done. It's way faster, it's smoother, and it's how people actually talk. All right, so a theory is great, but how do we put this into practice? Well, let's start building your conversational toolkit. We've pulled together a set of really high-impact chunks that you can start using right away in pretty much any situation.
Just starting a conversation can be the hardest part, right? So instead of a formal hello, try something warmer. Long time no see. That instantly reconnects you with somebody. And what have you been up to? That's a fantastic open-ended question that invites a real story, not just a yes or no.
Sharing your thoughts, well, it's all about nuance, not just being right or wrong. A phrase like fair enough is so powerful because it shows you respect the other person's view, even if you disagree. And using to be honest is like a little signal that you're about to say something candid, which can really build trust. And oh boy, managing your social life in another language, that can be stressful. But these chunks make it so much easier. Works for me is just a simple, casual yes. But what if you have to cancel? Something came up is the perfect tool for that. It's polite, it's a little vague, and it saves you from a long, awkward explanation. All right, so once you start getting your chunks down, the next level of sounding natural is really understanding context. The specific words and phrases people use can change a lot depending on where you are, especially between the US and the UK. Just take a look at how different some of these everyday words are. In the US, you put your groceries in the trunk of your car after you fill it with gas, but in the UK, you're putting them in the boot after you fill up with petrol. Now, these might seem like small details, but using the right word in the right place makes a huge difference in sounding like a local. We've focused a lot on what you say, but that's really only half the battle. Truly great conversation depends on a master skill that often gets ignored: active listening. And this is not just about waiting for your turn to talk. It's about really connecting with the other person. And here's why this is so important. When you actively show you're listening, you make the other person feel heard. You make them feel respected. And that builds connection, it keeps the conversation flowing, and it turns a simple exchange into something real. It really is a conversational superpower. So how do you get this superpower? Well, let's break it down into 4 simple, learnable levels. You can start with just simple sounds like or aha, just to show you're engaged. Then you can level up to reaction words like wow or really. Level 3 is repeating a key word, like Greece, to show you're paying close attention. And the most advanced technique is the echo question. So if they say, I haven't tried it, your simple reply, oh, haven't you? Keeps the focus on them and invites them to say more. It's incredibly effective.
Okay, we have covered some really powerful ideas today. But you know what? All this knowledge doesn't mean a thing if you don't actually put it into action. So, to bring this all together, I have a very simple, very direct challenge for you. All you need to do is remember this one number, 3. So here is your challenge. I want you to pick just 3 phrases from our toolkit. It could be, what have you been up to? Fair enough, or can I get a rain check? And your mission is to use them in a real conversation. Not tomorrow, not next week, today.
Look, you just gotta start small. Build that momentum. Every single conversation is a chance to practice. Every phrase you use is one more step toward becoming that fluent, confident speaker you want to be. So really, the only question left is, what conversation will you start today?